Hey there, thanks for joining me on this episode of Tropical Weather Impact. It is Friday, August the 15th. As we head into the weekend here, we now officially have Hurricane Erin on the books. We will have an update on how Erin is going to be an impact with waves and rip currents on the East Coast. We'll talk about also how it will likely become our first major hurricane, even a Cat 4 in the forecast. We're also going to discuss Invest 98. It's currently sitting just off the Texas coast near Brownsville. The hurricane hunters are actually flying through it this morning and luckily not finding anything that's rapidly developing anything other than a rainmaker. So here's where we stand right now. There it is, the first hurricane of the 2025 season, Hurricane Erin. It's a 75-mile-per-hour hurricane, and here is the latest on Invest 98. I wanted to start with Invest 98 quickly because it is closer to home here, and we are expecting some heavy rains along the southern Texas coastline and into South Texas over the next day or so. So the hurricane hunters, they are in there right now. They took off at just before 7 a.m. Central Time from Keesler there in Biloxi. They've been flying around and they have found some wind change, but they have not found a tight circulation anywhere. That could still try to happen, but this thing is so close to land and it's going to be moving inland through today, and so hopefully runs out of time and it's not able to develop into anything more than a rainmaker. Still though, it is a rainmaker. Radar showing some heavy showers just off the coast of Brownsville there, and so far the structure of this thing's somewhat messy, but that'll be traveling into Texas through today with a little bit of enhanced moisture up into south central Texas. San Antonio, Austin could see some rain from this on Saturday here, but overall the flood risk will stay isolated with that one. All right, let's track Hurricane Erin. The latest as of the 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern update puts us at a 75-mile-per-hour hurricane. It's moving west-northwest. That's important because we now have a northwest component to this storm at 18 miles an hour. Now, if we continue with this northwest track, that means it does stay north of the islands, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and all the islands in between here. We're still thinking somewhat minimal impacts, but there it is. The structure has improved. It was battling some wind shear, but it finally got that core protecting itself, and now it's, what we say, off to the races here, with it still expected to strengthen over the next 3 to 5 days, or 3 to 4 days. So here's the official track as of 10 a.m. Still tracking northwest, Category 2 by tomorrow morning, Category 3 by Saturday evening. That's rapidly intensifying here almost, and then up to a Category 4 by Sunday into Monday. So we are forecasting a powerful hurricane north of the islands by Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But notice it starts to take somewhat of a northerly turn late Sunday into Monday. So there's no big changes in thinking here. There have not been any significant shifts in the models. There have not been any significant shifts in the cone of uncertainty from the hurricane center. What this means, though, we will see some outer squalls probably for the islands, for the Turks and Caicos, some rough seas, but the core of that hurricane, the worst of the winds, those winds that are over 140 miles an hour, are passing north of the islands and out into the Atlantic. And then it looks like we're going to thread Bermuda and the East Coast and travel in between the two. Now, at that point, it's going to be a massive hurricane with a growing wind field, and so we will probably see some gustier winds along the coast there in the Carolinas, but nothing substantial. It'll mainly be a wave and rip current risk at the end of the day. Again, our models and our forecast itself are really starting to come into line without any big adjustments. Now, if you've been watching the past few days, the black lines here were the original forecast, and you can see day after day it was running south of that forecast, and so they kept having to make slight adjustments there. Well, over the past 24 hours or so, we've seen it stabilize, and now our forecast is running about the same for the past few updates. So we have not seen any further west adjustments with the current forecast. Yesterday we were seeing it adjusted west just slightly, but you can see there have not been any significant adjustments here. Florida, you are doing just fine here. Even the East Coast, we're still feeling okay about with regard to a direct impact from a big hurricane. Does not look like that. It looks like mainly a wave maker at the end of the day for the East Coast. So our tropical models, they show the hurricane going northwest, passing just north of the islands. Here's the turn. The turn's going to start Sunday night into Monday. It's going to be a gradual turn. We don't think it's going to be a sharp hook to the north. It'll be more gradual as the ridge begins to weaken, and then there you have it. Now, Bermuda really needs to watch this. I could see Bermuda actually seeing some stronger winds from this, some outer bands, but the core of the hurricane hopefully passing west of Bermuda and well east off the east coast there. And then going out in time to next Thursday, 6 days from now, you can see there watching the storm travel up to the north. Now the Canadian Maritimes, we're going to watch this long term, and I'll discuss that in just a second. Tropical storm watches are in effect for some of the northern Leeward Islands. Here's the British Virgin and U.S. Virgin Islands. That's Puerto Rico there. That's St. Croix. That's where the hurricane hunters are actually stationed. And so there is a tropical storm watch for these northern islands here on the Leeward Islands, but we're not expecting, at least not guaranteeing, tropical storm conditions for these islands. So that's where we stand with regard to the winds from this storm. So the turn, why the turn? Why are we still confident the turn is going to happen? Well, all of our guidance suggested, and so we're breaking down tropical satellite here. There's the hurricane. There's Hurricane Erin. There's Invest 98. Here's some tropical moisture off the east coast. You see this little spin up here in Canada? That's the feature. That's the upper level low that's spinning across. It'll fly across northeast Canada. That's going to weaken the ridge. So right now the ridge is still very strong in this corridor, but as that trough comes down and swings down over the next 5 days or so, you get this weakness developing in here. That's your escape path. So again, the ridge is strong, but watch it. There's your upper level trough, digs down. What does it do? Gives you an alleyway for this thing to slide out to sea. So that's why the turn's going to start out slow. And then as it goes north, it eventually fills these prevailing winds, gets trapped up in that, and it gets tugged out faster. But it also means we got to watch this for extreme northeast Canada by the end of this week. You can see there, by the time the storm is here, it's going to be transitioning into an extratropical system, which means the wind field gets bigger, the storm grows in size, and you can have a fairly potent storm skirting parts of northeast Canada there by the end of next week. We're talking 7 days from now. Now, yesterday I was talking about our GFS ensembles, how we were seeing some shifts to the west here. Luckily, that has stopped. The red were the ones we were seeing yesterday with that slight shift. The greens are the current update, and they're almost directly in line with yesterday's. And so that's good. While you don't even have any isolated models anymore coming off towards Florida. Those were yesterday, but you can see we've really got good agreement here, and so that should give you some peace of mind that this is not coming directly at Florida or the East Coast here. The winds from this. Now again, this storm is going to start out small and grow in size. It's actually going to get gigantic here in the next 5 days, but there's your tropical storm force winds staying mostly just north of the islands. The chance of tropical storm force winds in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands is sitting at about 20% right now, and so it doesn't seem very likely. The Turks and Caicos, really those far eastern islands, have about a 30% chance of tropical storm force winds, but we just don't expect major wind problems. The wind field is rather large here, and it's only going to grow in size. So here we are, your hurricane force winds in yellow, your major hurricane force in white there, and you can see they're traveling north and growing in size. Now let's back that up, because there is a chance that we do see some stronger winds right on the outer banks of North Carolina. If that storm is passing directly in between Bermuda and the East Coast, you can see their tropical storm force winds are going to extend far out from the center. And if this storm really grows into this size here, you can see just how large that wind field grows. You have the storm and tropical storm force winds perhaps extending over 200-300 miles away from the center. And so we may have some stronger wind gusts. This will mainly just be beach erosion here along the East Coast up into Virginia. There's New Jersey, there's New York, and so all of these areas along the East Coast are going to have rough seas later this week, especially Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And you're talking about some beach erosion, you're talking about rip current risk. In other words, you're not going to be at the beach through the middle of next week along the East Coast, up into New York, Long Island. All those areas are expecting some rough seas from this. Now, as we go out in motion here, again, look at this. As we go into the end of next week, 1 week from today, could we have a powerful extratropical Erin? Yes, there's St. John, that's Canada. You can see there that you may still very well have a very strong extratropical system, giant in size, moving across the Canadian Maritimes. And I'm talking, when it gets to that point, you're looking at the potential of a storm to be tropical storm force winds nearly 800-900 miles across as what's left over from Erin races off to the northeast. So that's going to be something to watch long term. The waves, again, are going to be rocking and rolling here. You can see there are some waves off the islands as we go through the weekend. Look at the East Coast. The waves grow in size as we go into the Wednesday and Thursday time frame. Probably the roughest seas along the East Coast on Wednesday night into Thursday. You're talking 20, 30, 40-foot tall waves closer to the storm, but right off the coast here, you've got waves approaching 10 to 15 feet. Again, beach erosion, waves crashing, not going to be safe for beach weather, and you're talking about some beach erosion as well. So that's going to do it for the latest on Hurricane Erin, expected to become a powerful Category 4. The East Coast, the risks are for the water. That's it. We're not expecting any significant impacts from wind or surge on the East Coast, but there will be waves crashing, things like that through next week. Luckily for the Caribbean islands, the worst of Erin is probably going to pass north of you as well. But you'll have some squalls, you'll have rough seas, so just staying out of the Atlantic waters here as we go through the weekend and early next week. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend as we continue to see hurricane season ramp up. Thanks for joining me on your tropical weather impact for your Friday. We'll see you right back here Monday with the latest.